Hello, Lions fans. Welcome to another episode where we have a surprise host tonight. So instead of Ash or Al hosting the podcast tonight, you have me. So welcome to We Are the Pride on the back of a wonderful weekend of footy. We had comprehensive wins in both our AFL and VFL teams. We had a game where we won every quarter and just about every statistic on the park that mattered. So it's going to be a really good podcast tonight. And obviously, it's going to be a lot of fun. So why don't we cue that bloody theme music? With me tonight is our wonderful founder, Ash. Welcome along.
Hello, and each surprise host is more surprising than the other, so it seems. And well, here I am in the Dunster's chair for the second time in a row, and no, listeners, I did not get suspended.
We're just having a bit of fun switching it up, trying to keep you all on your toes.
The real story is I'm just being lazy. Not really. Anyway.
So you've just got the two of us here tonight. Al is off with family duties, so it's a little bit hard post game to sometimes coordinate all of us. So sometimes and always family comes first. So Ash and I are here to sum up the round and bring you some chat. So I hope you don't mind, and if you do, well, tough. Although I'm sure you'll probably give us some feedback on that. So have fun. So before we get into the game and chatting about that, Ash, you wanted to bring up something?
Yeah, so something I just picked up, and this goes back to, so we had a voice message come through a few episodes ago from a good friend of the show, Jules Sheldon, absolute legend of a bloke.
Yep.
Bringing up the dismissal of Fitzroy's records and so forth in the media, and just the disrespect being shown. And look, a lot goes with the Bears as well. And it even goes down to people trying to call the Swans South Melbourne as an insult. It's just kind of, well, that's who they are. But anyway, so the latest thing I noticed, and it does involve the Swans. So how much did the Swans lose by on the weekend?
A lot.
Do you know how many?
12?
Yeah.
Was it 112?
Yeah. Well, what was their position on the ladder?
First.
Right. So several media organisations and several other organisations and just people in general were running with this narrative that, well, this is the biggest loss by a team first on the ladder in the history of football. Now, I don't know if they've just got short memories or they're goldfish, they blink and they miss it, but there's another club by the name of Fitzroy who had a win against a club called North Melbourne. Two very forgetful clubs, apparently, according to many, but that's unfair. 1983, round 13. Fitzroy, third on the ladder, defeated North Melbourne, first on the ladder by 150 points. Now that's a lot more than 112, isn't it?
I suspect maybe they meant the AFL, not including VFL, SANFL or Waffle.
It's just some graphics said V/AFL, and they were speaking specifically, just swallowing my words there, of this actual competition. I mean, look, it's probably happened in the Waffle, SANFL, NTFL, whatever. That's not what we're here to talk about. It's just one of those things where Well, I mean, look, it's Fitzroy's most famous win they ever had, more so than when they hit the record score in 1979. And again, it comes down to just a complete dismissal. A lot of people were unhappy about it. My inbox was flooded very, very thoroughly on Saturday night, Sunday morning. Like, just do your research, guys. It's not that bloody hard. And also, something similar happened, but this is in a positive way. So Fox Footy put out a graphic. It was the wooden spoons ladder. All the wooden spoons of all time. And I thought, hey, as a combined club, we've only won 2. Well, the Bears won a couple and Fitzroy won a few. So we'll
and Port's won none ever. So, you know.
Yeah, we'll take the 2. And we'll just be hypocritical here and we'll take the 2 wooden spoons. But don't forget Fitzroy existed, and don't forget North Melbourne, South Melbourne, and maybe University. No one really knows.
Bears. Let's not forget the Bears either.
Yeah, the Bears. You know,
we take both of our clubs' histories, and I must admit, I do love seeing the boys in their training shirts, and that they alternate equally between the Fitzroy and the Bears ones. That's really heartwarming to see. So, I know we gave the club a bit of a whack for not honouring our traditions, but I've noticed they've been doing that a lot more recently. So massive kudos to the club for doing that.
Those training tops they've got this year, and I don't know if this is a popular or unpopular opinion, and I might upset some people and I might make some people happy. The ones that have got Fitzroy written across the front and Bears written across the front, I find them really lame. The ones they've done every other year previous to this have been amazing. I do have the blue one side, yellow the other side one from 20 or 21, whichever year that was. I still wear that. I wore it last night. But yeah, this year's ones, I don't know. I find them to be a bit lame, but that's just me. It's my opinion.
Hey, and there's no wrong opinions, although I must admit I like them. But again, I like them because of the nod to the club's history. They could be plain white with just Fitzroy or the Bears written on them, and I'd like them because they're a nod to the club's history. So.
Yeah, look, I agree with that part, that recognising the history and doing stuff for everybody, absolutely applaud that. Yeah, maybe I'm just old and these newfangled young people's jumpers look weird to me. I don't know. But listeners won't know, but I'm actually wearing a Brisbane Bears hat at the moment. So
I think we're both in Lions gear at the moment, so can't go wrong. Got a couple of layers.
That's pretty much all you've got, isn't it?
No, I've got a fair amount. I've got enough to wear something every day of the week without having to do washing. So
there you go.
Yeah, but nobody else needed to know that. So fun. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting point that you raise, and a little bit frustrating sometimes from the media just in a whole, the lack of research that they do. But I think overall, if that's sort of the biggest gripe we can come up with, I'd much rather be griping over something like that than, you know, some of the other stuff they do, which I'll bring up in my crosses a little bit later. So yeah, it could be worse. Not much, but it could be worse. So I guess onto the game, which is the reason we're here. And before we really start into anything of the actual game, I just want to give a huge shout out to Froggy Ryan Lester for his 200th game and how everyone just seemed to play bigger for him this week. I know Fags mentioned in his post-match press conference that the very first thing he mentioned to the team after we won last week against the Suns was this was all about Froggy this week. So I feel like as a team, we just played bigger for him, and I cannot give more kudos to the club for what they did to honour him, because he is such a clubman through and through, and I think he deserved every bit of plaudits that he got this week. And yeah, I think it was just incredible. But I wasn't even at that match, Ash. As someone that got to experience it firsthand, what do you think?
It was great. Everyone was respectful to him. I felt the mainstream sort of media wide coverage for him was really good. all things considered, we know the focus was going to be on Scott Pendlebury. 400 games doesn't happen every day of the week. Lots of guys have played 200 games, and lots of guys like Ryan Lester get forgotten because they're not, sort of your media darlings, or they're not like big flashy stars. But he got really good coverage, a lot of respect from a lot of good influential people. And like you said, the boys got around him, but he played a really good game as well.
Yeah, he did.
And it was great. And a few people were whinging that St Kilda fans didn't hang around to see him get Chet off the ground. But I mean, when you're 80 points down and there's still a quarter of footy to go, what are you going to do? The cheer squad wasn't even there for 90% of the game at all.
Yeah, I did notice that on the media, that it sort of flicked to something and there was like this tiny little slither, and I'm like, oh, that's bad.
So I sat upstairs on level 2 for the first half of the game.
Yeah, tell us about that.
That was a bit more noticeable, that you could see the big gaps in their cheer squad more. But good friend of the Lions, the man who sponsored the club for this game, Scott, very good man. We all know who Scott is, and we all love him. And
Scotty too hotty. It said so on our banner.
Oh, look, he is a bit of a rooster, I must admit. He's a good-looking man, but a very, very good man as well. He wrangled a couple of seats for myself and young Abby to go up into the Medallion Club. Unfortunately, I couldn't stay upstairs. I was having a bit of trouble with vertigo while I was up that high.
Yep.
And made the mistake of using the escalators to go downstairs at halftime for something. So the old vertigo played up a bit, and so I had to stay downstairs for the rest of the game. But I was lucky that I did have some good friends around who kept me entertained, so that I could sort of try and not think about the dizziness and the other things I had going on. So the bloody Lions family are the best. Like, honestly, up at the Gabba, everyone was just amazing when I found out my father passed away. And then this game as well, when I wasn't feeling too good sort of physically, just everyone rallied. It was great.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have who we have.
We are.
Around us, I think we have some of the best fans in terms of just that sort of camaraderie. I know there's some that fall on at the very ends of the spectrum, and you're always going to get that no matter what. But for the most part, what I've found and the people that I've met have just been absolutely incredible. So we're very lucky that the Lions have brought us all together.
Yep. And as the great Jeff Fennick would say, I love yous all.
Yes, we do. But that was a great segue into bringing Scott up, because he was another one of my points. It was absolutely wonderful to see a fan, and a genuine die-hard fan who has given blood, sweat and tears to the club for a very, very long period of time, get to be our first ever fan sponsor. So the fact that Yui even took out some little sponsors on the digital banner, so Scott's name was up there. It was on all of the boards. The team got him in for the song at the end of the game.
Yeah, I saw that. That was great.
Really loved everything they did from start to finish with that. I think it's a fantastic, that's a once in a lifetime sort of opportunity for Scott, and an absolute wonderful thing to see as a fan, to see the club get so behind that, because you love when fans are appreciated, and that couldn't have been more obvious this week.
Yeah, and look, just being total disclosure and honesty here, I did hear a little bit of whinging from a few people who are a little bit on the jealous side. Scott wasn't doing it, and the Yui weren't doing it, and the club weren't doing it to spite other people. They were doing it to celebrate the fact that we have great fans of our football club, and he just happened to be the guy that was there in the right place at the right time. And believe you me, he worked hard to get to that position. He didn't just waltz up and get a whole bunch of privilege or anything like that. So bloody loved the bloke. We were messaging all the way home from the ground last night, texting, and we are working on getting him onto the show, but he's got a couple of little ideas he's going to ring me about. So watch that space.
How fabulous. But honestly, just get behind it. I mean, who knows? One of you guys could be the fan sponsor next year if they do it again. So
Yeah.
the more the merrier, quite frankly. I love seeing it. I love seeing our fans at the absolute forefront of everything that the club did this week, and I think it can only get better from here. So kudos to Yui for starting it. Kudos to the Lions for jumping on board. Kudos to Scott for being such a great example of the first ever one. And hopefully it gets bigger and better every year.
Yeah, and big shout out to our supporters as well. We clearly outnumbered the Saints, which look,
Was so much louder. That Lions chant at the end, oh, chilling.
Yeah, and there was that. Oh, excuse me, just sorry, nature takes over sometimes. I don't normally drink soft drink, and I've got a bottle of it here, so bear with me.
That's okay.
But yeah, look, everyone was great. Every one of our fans hung around, but as well, when right at the end, when all the little kids are running to the front to get their hands on a footy or whatever, adults were lifting random kids up and putting them up the front of the fence, giving up their seats to, you come down here, young fella, or young girl or whatever, and it was just amazing. I know winning really helps with everybody's happiness, and everybody's a hell of a lot more willing to work together when we're winning, especially by 80 odd points. But yeah, like no complaints at all. Everyone was great. And a couple of people who did spot that I was struggling a bit at halftime come up, put their arm around me or whatever, and just you're all right, mate. Just sort of soldier on a bit. I'm here if you need me, sort of thing. And that it was random people too.
I love that.
Yeah,
love our Lions family, and that's what we all are. Might love each other and hate each other at different parts, but I love our Lions family.
And I got a text from our good friend Karen this afternoon. She was on the Sky bus on her way back to the airport to go home, and as she was walking along the aisle on the top deck of the Sky bus, she was getting high fives left, right, and centre from people saying "Go to Lions." So
yes,
yeah,
yes, very excited about that. So hopefully we have a repeat when I come down in a couple of weeks' time. So
hope so.
Yeah. But I guess we should probably get into the game itself and some little key takeaways from the game. And I think my first and my favorite, we've said over and over again this year that he is the one player we cannot replace, that if he goes down, what are we going to do? And we had some experience with that last week where we had to send one of our key forwards down back. But how good was it having Harris back this week?
And what made it even more noticeable was his performance was just so good, but then the Saints' key defenders up the other end just looked like little boys in comparison. They looked like under 12 in comparison. They weren't even in the same league as Harris Andrews last night. He was unbelievable. Spoils, marks. But the other thing, and I don't know if they showed this on TV, but when you're sort of at the game, you notice it. He was running up to every single player at random times, patting him on the head, arm around him, geeing him up. Someone kicked a goal at the opposite end to me at one point, and he ran a full length of the field to get around him. And
I love that.
I think it might have been Zach Bailey, but memory's a bit foggy still. I'm still sort of, I'm still celebrating the win inside my head. But yeah, and he was sort of turning around, smiling at the crowd, and he's a dreamboat.
No, I love it. He had 18 disposals, took 14 marks. Like, he was on fire, and you could tell that having that week off just made him want to be there even more. And they showed a little bit of that sort of him getting around everyone, but certainly not as much as you see when you're live at the game. He's something incredibly special, and we're so lucky to have him. And it's criminal that he's not spoken more highly of as a key defender.
And what he did as well was he forced the Saints to change their tactics. Now, it's not very often you'll hear, a coach changed the way his entire team plays the game because of the opposition fullback.
Yep.
So the Saints stopped trying to get the ball into their deep forwards.
Yep.
And they started positioning Marshall and Membry up around the 50 mark, and then hoping like hell that they'd be able to nail their kicks from out there. Because obviously Marshall in particular had a size advantage on Leicester and Wilmot
Just a little.
when he was dropping into that hole at 50. But, they completely changed their tactics rather than go deep trying to rely on the guys they had in the goal square.
Yep.
Because that clearly wasn't working for them. And look, for a brief period, Marshall kicked a couple of goals from sort of the 45, 50 mark when the game was well and truly done and dusted. But
yep.
Yeah, if a fullback's forcing you to change your tactics, then that just shows how well he's playing.
Well, they had a period where I think they had like 9 inside 50s, pretty much 30 metres out, smack bang front end goal, and didn't even get a single point from it. So that tells you just how much Harris influenced. And it wasn't just Harris, it was our defending unit as a whole. I think Darcy Wilmot had a fantastic game again. Zorko was incredible and was just everywhere. Like,
there's no words for how well Zorko played, in my opinion. It was amazing at ground level. Once I got back down to ground level, I noticed it even more. His positioning is unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like last week was kind of we're going to do it for Harris. We're going to do it for all the boys that were injured. And it just continued this week. Like that intensity. That's what I have in my notes. The intensity. They showed, they just didn't let up. And even though, we kept springing ahead and springing ahead and springing ahead, we kept St Kilda to a point in the second quarter. And that was off the back of our defensive unit and the pressure they applied.
They got 1 goal to half time, if I recall.
They did.
Yeah. And as well, Brendan Starcevic, like he's in a rich vein of form at the moment. I felt last night was probably close to, if not his best game of the year. And I've said that for about the last 3 weeks every week, but he's coming good at the right time of year, isn't he? Like
they just all seem to be.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong when, for a guy that's been out a couple of times injured, to come in and just still impact and not take sort of 6 or 7 weeks to settle back in. He's just fantastic. And he does such an incredible shutdown role on forwards that just never gets spoken about.
Yeah.
And it should more.
He's really hit that sweet spot of maturity as well, I feel.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it was Jack Higgins he played on. He kept him to 4 disposals the whole game. No goals.
And Higgins kicked 5 against us last game. So Correct. That's a massive, big turnaround.
Correct. So huge shout out to Brandon Starcevic for that job. But talking about players in form, and this sort of goes into my next one, and he gets his own whole section because I'm in charge this week, so I don't care. And it's not even Hugh McCluggage. I didn't even put Clugs in this list. But it's Pumbaa. Cam Rayner, take a bow. He just keeps going from strength to strength. 22 disposals, 3 goals. He was just everywhere. That little bit of play where he intercepted in the defence and then it got into our forward 50 for a goal, I think it was in the third quarter, was just perfection to watch.
I've got a little bit more to say about Rayner later on, so I'm just going to hold on to that. Otherwise, I'll have nothing.
Well, this is what happens when you let me be in charge, because I'm just going to be a love affair to all my favourites.
Happens to me every episode.
To be fair, like Cam's always been one of my absolute favourites. From the very moment he started wearing the number 16, just because obviously Brownie's always been one of my favourites. But it's just so good to see him show all of that potential that he's been showing glimpses of. But consistently, it feels like we've had about 2 months of just him doing things that nobody should do. And that contender for goal of the year, that's go vote Lions fans and get him up this week, was just a beauty to watch.
I could read this out on the show because anyone who's already clicked on our link would have seen it on our cover pick. Quote from Jonathan Brown: Rayner could be the most impactful player in the competition right now.
Yeah, wouldn't disagree with that.
And as Brownie said, he only needs to get between 15 and 20, and he's playing a match-winning role.
Well, look at this, 22 disposals, and he blew this game apart. Absolutely blew this game apart. But we'll talk about Rayner a little bit later, so
we sure will.
I I won't take all of your thunder.
Mm.
I do want to, this might be another one that we might be talking about later, but Joey's love affair with Marvel Stadium. So Joey
Mm.
Danaher, I don't know what it is, but he always just seems to stand up and play big games when we play at Marvel.
Well, it used to be his home ground for 5 years or 6 years or something. So
That's true, but 4 goals, three. Unlucky that it wasn't a bag. By the way, I picked Cam Rayner kicking 3 goals. Yeah, it was in my predictions, so I'm just sorry, I was meant to say that just before. But I just, especially with Hippie going down just before the game, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. It was good to see Joe stand up, but it was also good to see our other forwards stand up, and I feel like they stood taller because Joey stood taller.
yeah.
Um,
And I want to bring up a little bit of statistical analysis of
ooh,
Joe.
love that.
One of our good long life. He's not milk. Lifelong Fitzroy into Brisbane Lions supporter Scott Dean. Everybody who knows Scott knows him as the card collector. If you can name a player from the last 60, 70 years, he's got a footy card of him. He's absolutely one of the most beautiful people you'll meet. We're having a bit of a chat, and he said, "Look," he goes, "Why do people always bag Joe Danaher? He's like, he literally, I know he does some silly things here and there that probably makes Fagan pull his hair out, but 90% of what he does outweighs the 10% that he doesn't do well." But I want to bring up something on top of that. So Joe played 108 games for Essendon.
Mm-hmm.
Kicked 191 goals. That's pretty good. That's just under two.
Just under two.
Yeah, just under two. He's played 89 games for us.
Hey, great number.
Kicked 189 goals, two less in 20 less games.
20 less games. Wow.
Like, people constantly get on him, and David King in the media and a lot of people on social media or whatever. And I just assume that they're all pseudo Essendon fans in disguise or whatever. Oh, he's done nothing. He doesn't know how to kick a goal. 189 goals in less than 4 seasons for our football club. There's still potentially 5 or 6 sort of, I'm just trying to think, there's 3 more home and away rounds?
Yep.
So potentially 3 more. So there's potentially 6 more games this year. He's kicked 43 goals this year already. Mm-hmm. Still with as many as 6 games to go. And like, he's top 50, he's top 40 every year, except for the year he did his shoulder where he got 39.
Yep.
Like, 40 goals plus is a good year for a key forward in today's football.
Well, everyone's been crapping on about how, oh my God, Jeremy Cameron is on fire. You know, he's kicking so well. He's kicked so many goals. He's kicked 45 goals. He's kicked 2 goals more than Joey. Yeah,
well, Jeremy Cameron, what people don't realise when they go on about him is that he's actually spent a lot of time then in the back line this year with Geelong too. So, look, he is having a good season, but, like, I don't know. I mean,
I know. I was just saying that the comparison between, my God, this guy is in such huge form. Yeah. Oh, my God, this other guy, like, what is he doing? Like, he's not doing enough, and it's 2 goals difference.
I wouldn't swap Joe for anyone. Like, no. Even just like his disposal average for us, it's a couple of disposals a game more. His marks are more per game.
He plays that defensive role up the ground a lot more than a lot of those others. He plays more in the ruck than
he probably doesn't play more in the ruck with us than what he did with Essendon. He's about the same, but
I was going to say than all the other contemporary forwards. Like,
I realised that when I was about halfway through my
sorry,
but I couldn't stop. I had already started. But no, like, as well, you think he's got Bailey, Cameron, McCarthy, Hipwood, had McStay for a while, Rayner, now Morris, all those guys, Lohman. Whereas at Essendon, he had
1 or 2 others, and that was it.
Tumbleweeds, because he was the only guy they had. Because Michael Hurley, very early on in Joe's career, got sent down back. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Stewart was no good. He was only playing when Joe was injured, really. So, yeah, he's competing with more guys that are good, in that forward group, but his output is bigger.
And he's also been far more selfless.
Mm.
Like he's given up a lot of potential goals for himself to get others in who are in better positions or someone's been having a bit of a downtime. Well, here, let me give this one to him so he can kick it. And a lot of others aren't like that. But who would you pick? Like, quite frankly, I don't want Jesse Hogan in our club. He's the
No.
current leader of the Coleman Medal. I don't want a guy that punches other blokes in the face at our club.
Well, that's one of the least things he's done in his time, isn't it? Really?
I know, but it's the most recent.
Mm.
So, but you sort of, I think people forget that he brings so much more than just pure goal kicking ability, but his goal kicking ability
But
should be spoken about far better than it does.
the other thing I noticed too, when I was sitting up on level 2, we could actually hear the players on the ground because the area was a lot quieter than where I normally sit. So where I normally sit, we're in the coal face. It's a lot more people. It's louder. There's a lot more young people as well. Sitting up top, we could actually hear players on the ground, and we could hear Joe and Cam Rayner every time the ball went inside our 50, directing traffic.
Yep.
But not being dickheads about it, like the media try to say they are. Not, oh yeah, you should have kicked it to me. It was like, no, there's a space there, put it there. Or a couple of times when the play needed to be slowed down, Joe would be just like, tempo, and he'd give that signal for tempo.
Yep.
So there's a hell of a lot more to Joe and Cam Rayner that people just don't realise.
And same with Charlie Cameron. All three of them bring so much leadership to that group because everyone forgets Logan's only just gone 18. Kai himself is still a rising star. I think he's 20. We've got, and this comes to another one of my points that I was going to bring up, and that's our young clubs are standing up, but they're standing up because our older level heads are helping develop them and helping them grow, but letting them grow. They're all getting so much opportunity. You look at Darcy, like Motty, who has just absolutely come in leaps and bounds. And a huge part of that is Zorks is rubbing off on him, and he's got that leadership around him that is letting him do what he does without holding him back and without going, no, it's my ball. Going, no, you go. Like, we're here, but you do you. And it's the same with Kai. It's the same with Logan. It's the same with Bruce. And all of them, I feel, are just standing up taller and developing probably quicker than I would have expected them to otherwise. And I think it's a combination of not only their own talent, but I think it's a huge part due to the leadership that we have around them.
And one of the other things that's been talked about amongst people who know what they're talking about in the last week or so is that there's been a change in look, we as fans have noticed this anyway. It's been a change in the way the teams are being selected.
Yes.
It's no longer once you're in, and you're in for as long as we keep you in.
Yep.
It's now become a horses for courses or you're 97% fit. Well, we'll get a guy who's 100.
Yep. You have to earn your place, and you have to earn your place every week.
Yeah, and a little bit of talk about Henry Smith saying, "Oh, he's not up to it. He's like a scared little rabbit in the headlights or whatever." Go and actually watch him specifically. Just focus on him for the whole entire game.
Yep.
I think he had like 4 or 5 goal assists for a start, maybe more. And yeah, okay, he's not kicking goals, but we're getting goals out of him.
Yep. He had 5 clearances himself.
Yeah, we're not getting goals from his mistakes. We're getting goals from his direct, assertive play.
Yeah. And he's a young key forward, and young key forwards take time. Like, key forwards take time to develop. They absolutely do. Anyone with half a brain will tell you that. And that's where he will potentially be, or potentially he'll be a replacement for Oscar down the track. Like, he has so much potential. And the fact that we can have a kid like that who's capable of coming into the side when we have people go down, we're very, very fortunate. We're not like Melbourne where Max Gawn went down and they didn't play with a rock for 2 weeks. or 3 weeks. Like,
That panned out well for him, didn't it?
yeah.
And
But
look, guys that tall do take time. They don't really start hitting that peak time till they're about 26. I mean, look at Tristan Sherry at North Melbourne. He had to sit back and wait. He wasn't ready. And now look at him. He's potentially now, I think he's gone ahead of Brodie Grundy now, in my opinion, as the All-Australian ruck.
yeah, and you know what irritates me is that Oscar won't be in that conversation, and he should be.
Oh, he's getting into it now. He's
No,
no,
he never even gets a look in.
Oh no. The last probably month, he's really getting a look in. There's a
Really?
lot of chat about him.
Oh, I hope there is, because he deserves all the plaudits. Like, it
Yeah.
really irritates me that he never even gets mentioned half the time, and he's consistently up there. And I think he'd be, with Sherry, one of, if not the best. Like, Lockie Neal doesn't get the level of clearances he gets if Oscar's not feeding him what he's feeding him. And Oscar does so much of his own clearance work anyway, but not who we were meant to be talking about. I could go on a tangent because I adore him for days. But yeah, I think there's a lot to our young Cubs and what they've brought to the team this year. But there's also a lot to our older heads in allowing those young Cubs that development.
Yep.
And I'm excited about it. And I'm excited to see everyone fighting for their spots, because I feel like there just seems to be a greater level of hunger, because they know that change in selection seems to be, well, you gotta do more. And it's got to be team first. We don't necessarily care if the stats don't represent the best game for you. If you've done everything that you can for the team, we'll reward that too.
Even you look at a guy like Josh Dunkley, some weeks he's told, don't worry about getting the ball, just stop this guy from getting it. And he does it without complaint. He goes out there, works hard. Sometimes we think, well, Dunkley didn't do much tonight because he's only had 15 or 18 kicks or whatever. And same with Jasper Fletcher. You don't realise the work he does off the ball until you're actually sitting in the right place at the ground to see it.
And he had one period of play in this game where he tackled, got the ball out, and literally went and tackled again, 2 tackles in 10 seconds. Like, he was, and I don't believe the stats because it says he only got 4 tackles for the game. I'm pretty sure I saw at least more than that. So, yeah, he was just, his defensive pressure was fantastic.
Maybe when he gets multiple tackles in one passage of play, the statistician just puts it down as 1 because they're lazy.
Could be.
Maybe the statisticians need a pay rise, AFL.
Honestly, I love our team first players, and it's not just Dunks or Fletch. It's, the Jared Berries of the world who just, everything is about, I don't care if it's, not going to be my name up in lights. What can I do to help the Lions?
Yep, that's it. And that's very visible.
I feel like it's something that we were missing at the start of the year. And I feel like we've clicked. And I can't wait to see where we go from here.
Well, I'd rather be peaking now than in round 1.
Exactly.
And I said that at the time too. I said, I'm not even going to be worried until we hit the bye round.
Yep.
And I said that before round 1, actually. I said it after we played the Swans in the, whatever the preseason thing's called these days.
Yep.
Yeah.
So speaking of Henry Smith as a contender, given that Eric Hipwood was a very, very late last minute out due to groin soreness from the last game, and caught it apparently 50-50 call as to whether he could play or not, and they figured they'd just be safe than sorry and give him an extra week. And Charlie, who went out as in the third quarter, end of the third quarter as our sub, Fague said that it was tactical, that it wasn't officially an injury, although he was listed as sub-injured on the AFL website.
Yeah,
so,
he had a bit of cramp.
Yeah. So what do we think about those injuries? Do we think we should be concerned, given that we're lining up for a finals tilt?
Oh, I think, look, groin injuries are always a worry, especially a guy that size. But I think the club's done the best thing rather than just give him a jab and send him out.
Yep.
They've taken the precautionary route. We're 4 weeks away from finals. We're pretty much locked in to play finals. I mean, mathematically, we can still miss it, but it's
If
considering
we miss it from here, I'll be murdering someone.
considering everybody else in the top 8 is playing each other in the next few weeks. It's going to be hard for us now, considering our percentage and our position in the wins column.
By the way, if anyone's paying attention or listening in from home who are a detective, that of course was a tongue-in-cheek comment and should not be considered an accurate summation of what I would actually do if we miss finals. Just putting it out there.
Well,
although I'd be tempted.
Knowing Deb as well as I do, and I probably know a little bit better than some of the listeners because we talk about this stuff a lot, but I think what she would actually do if we miss finals is probably worse than what she just said.
Probably. No one would want to be around me if we miss finals. Anyway, so yeah, I'm glad we're taking it a little bit of a precautionary take with both Charlie and Hippie. I'd rather them both be in firing form. And I felt a little bit more comfortable with Hippie given that he played down back last week. So Harris obviously came in. So it wasn't like we were missing a gaping hole in our forward line. Although I do feel like if he'd been here, he probably would have kicked 4 or 5 goals with what was being offered up to our forward 50 this game.
So that's the thing. So last week he wasn't stretching out and running the big kilometres that he normally does up and down the wings, as far back as the half-back line and then sprinting back forward. He was pretty much sort of more stop-start, trying to block leads and that sort of thing. So, his running patterns and I guess his physical movements were completely different. It's not surprising that he did pull up sore considering that. But, look, right, I know a few years back, I won't say which player it was, but there was a player who had a back injury and they jabbed him pre-game in the last round and he played and then he missed a couple after that.
Yep.
So I think they've learned from that and said, right, let's just sit him out, get him right, get a bit of physio and have him ready. And same with Chuck. They chucked a bit of ice on him.
Yep.
It was just a bit of cramp. It was nothing major. Kyle Oman's another one too. He jarred his knee at one stage.
I saw that. I was so worried. I'm like, please don't be another ACL.
No,
my God, my heart stopped.
He did the same thing in the VFL in the first round of the year, and we were horrified. We thought he was gone. Like he was hobbling around, but he came up and played the next week that time, and he played out the rest of this game. So I think he's going to be okay.
I think he should be fine. And for everyone on social media who was talking about Hippie and going, good, keep him out of the side, you know that's not how we feel on this podcast. I'm very staunchly Team Hippie, and given that I'm hosting today, this is a staunchly Team Hippie podcast.
But not only that, you don't, like, I don't want to sound like I'm patronising anyone or whatever the word is I'm looking for, condescending or whatever, but if you think he's giving us nothing, you don't know anything about football.
You don't realise how much he does outside of just scoring goals.
Yeah.
And Henry Smith is a wonderful in, and don't get me wrong, can't wait to see him develop, but he's not going to kick the number of goals that Hippie would kick in a final.
No.
And that's not me being harsh. That's just where their development stages are at.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hipwood's what now, 26-ish. He's now, for a guy that height, this is where his peak years start.
Yep.
This is where the excitement builds.
And it is building.
Mm-hmm.
Team Hippie. For anyone who didn't see, because you won't see this, I just did the little hashtags. I'm a millennial and we still do stuff like that. So,
okay.
But yes, I will move on so this just doesn't become a love affair to Eric Hipwood because, as we all know, I can quite happily do that. So I get to probably one of my more fun points that I hope to bring up, and that is Bales back?
Yes.
He kicked 3 goals. He looked like he was on fire. He had quite an impact outside of the goals that he kicked. So he had 20 disposals of his own. He just seemed to be everywhere.
Yep. So I've got a little bit more to say about the rat a bit later as well. So, I'll reserve that. But one thing I will say. So I mentioned before, Harris Andrews running up to random players and
Yep.
patting them on the back, rubbing their hair and stuff like that. He sprinted at one point, probably about 30 or 40 meters to Zach Bailey for no apparent reason. Nothing was happening at that particular moment. The ball was up the other end, but Zach had
Yep.
been coming down back a bit, helping out, getting the ball up around half back and on the wing. And yeah, Harris just ran up, gave him a bit of a pump up, bit of a high five, gave him some. You could see he was saying positive things to him by his
Yep.
body language. And again, like, you know, he's getting positive feedback from his skipper because of the work he's doing out there.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So we'll talk more about Zach later, but he deserves all the plaudits because there's been a lot of queries about the form that he's been in coming back off that ankle injury. And I'm going to be very happy to chat about him later. So my lucky last point, sort of before we get into the media and umpires and whatnot, is how much of, as a team, and I'm not singling anyone out, but how much of clearance beasts we were this game. So
We were well in
this
front.
absolutely demonstrated where we were on the ladder versus St Kilda. So we came into this game with everyone going on about how Ross Lyon and the Saints were going to be the Grinch and they were going to spoil everyone's Christmas. And, you know, they were in the form of their life because look what they've done the last couple of weeks and look at how they towed Essendon and, you know, Brisbane's, we're really not sure if they're going to be up for it. And they just got absolutely owned. I mean, and it wasn't just Lockie Neal standing up and God, he had a game and a half, didn't he? But
well, how many? Because he had more than
13 clearances.
Yeah, I was going to say last time I saw it flash up on the screen, he had 10, and he got more after that. So yeah.
Yep. Hugh had 9, Dunks had 7, Henry Smith had 5. Like we were just
we're about
all over them.
16, 17, something like that ahead of him.
Yeah.
In clearance.
Yeah.
And contested possession as well. We were a long way in front there.
Oh, long way in front. So hold on. Clearances 48 to 27.
Yeah, so that's nearly 20. So yep.
Yep. And contested possession 139 to 96.
Yeah, that's huge. That's it. Actually, that's even bigger than the clearance gap.
That's the biggest contested possession difference for St Kilda all year.
So that's where what you're saying about St Kilda, where they were, you know, they've been flying the last couple of weeks or whatever. Well, they went back to the sort of football they'd been previously playing prior to that.
Yeah.
That little, let's just play keepings off and actually not try and run the ball forward and just run around in circles. Well, it's not a game that stacks up in 2024.
I've got a bit more to say about that later.
Good, because I want to hear it.
I'm going to do a you.
Hey, you know what? Al does it to me every week.
I must admit, there was a period of time there between the second and third quarter where St Kilda, I think they did like 18 or 19 tackles in a row and we didn't tackle once because we had the ball and they just couldn't get it off us. And I know their tackling numbers look fantastic in comparison and there's a lot to be said about tackles and defensive pressure and whatnot, but their tackles, so it was 66 to 43 in St Kilda's favour. 66 to 43 in St Kilda's favour, and that was purely because we had the ball and they just couldn't get it.
Yep, you're not going to get big tackle numbers when you're dominating possession.
Nope. We just seem to want it more. I mean, I think there's definitely a massive skill difference, but it felt like we hunted and we hunted in packs. Like if, you know, one wasn't going to get you, someone else was going to get you. And the turnovers and how we just pressed advantage after turnovers was delightful to watch.
Score from turnovers from memory. They flashed it up on the big screen. It was 12 goals something to 2 goals something.
Yeah, 77 points or something for us. Like it was that's astronomical.
That's basically a 55-point gap in score from turnover.
And normally if you get about 40 points score from turnover, that's like considered a decent score
Yeah,
from turnover.
and that's an area where we have been weak in the past, where
Yes.
opposition clubs have gotten us scores from, goals from half back and scores from turnover, whereas we're now generating those.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a real delight to watch. And it was just, God, I would have killed to have been at that game. It just looked like a delight to be at. The fact that every single quarter we won, and we won comprehensively. And we've been accused a lot in the past of taking our foot off people's throats and just sort of letting games get a little bit back, or letting the other team score a couple of cheap goals that flatters them more than it should, just because we sort of tend to be like, oh, okay, well, we've won. Doesn't really matter how much we win by.
And the red time goals as well.
And the red time goals. And I felt like we didn't do that this game. Even though St Kilda did score 2 goals in the last quarter, we still scored the very last goal of the match. And there was never one point in this entire game where St Kilda scored back-to-back goals.
And they never led for any point of the game. So
not a second.
Another Dom Fay curse got broken.
Yeah.
Us scoring the first goal in an away game, and we still went on to win.
Exactly. So I am very, very proud of our boys, and I know there was a lot of chatter in the lead up to this weekend's round of games about who's the flag favourites, and there was a lot of people going, well, the Western Bulldogs are the informed team of the competition because they've knocked off Sydney, Carlton and Geelong, and Hawthorn's the informed team of the competition. And I'm hoping rightfully that the Lions start genuinely becoming part of that conversation. I did note on first crack that all three of them, and this includes David King, had Brisbane as their number one seeds.
A lot of people did.
Which is nice.
As of today, yeah.
But it'd be nice to actually get spoken about. So I'm getting a little bit over, and this probably goes, I guess, into our next usual segment where we chat about media and umpires and weird stats, which is the fact that I'm getting a little bit over just how for granted the Lions have been taken. The only real sort of genuine media coverage we've got in the mainstream media side of things was when we didn't have a defender because Harris was out with concussion. We don't really seem to get much plaudits when we win, and we win well. And the fact that, we're on this crazy winning streak. We haven't lost in 11 weeks. Thanks, bye. 11 weeks, 10 weeks?
10.
10 weeks. Sorry, where's Al? Where is Al when you need him? He's the one that's all over this.
Al actually legitimately, I kid you not, puts a notch every week on his calendar that we haven't lost.
Yep.
Yeah, the old calendar on the inside of the dunny door. He takes a texter in there with him, and we've had another win. That's another lossless week.
He's the guru on this. So I hope that we start genuinely getting spoken about. I mean, in the lead up to the finals last year, there wasn't any mention of the Lions until pretty much grand final week.
So
even the prelim week wasn't about us.
I actually disagree with that to a point, because I scout around a lot.
There's a difference.
I scout around a lot, but also I live in a place where football is more important than politics and any other news. So I do see a lot. We do get a lot. It's not always what we want to see, but it's what they know is going to get the attention and the clicks on their websites and their Facebook pages and whatever. But look, we do get a lot, but first part of the year, we got a lot of negative press, warranted or not. We got it, which is why I'm constantly ranting, and I know some people get tired of it, but a lot of other people have come up to me and said, I'm so glad you said this. Get behind the independent footy media. Get behind the independent podcasts, the ones that aren't backed by the Channel 7, Fox,
Yep.
Herald Sun, whatever. Like, I can't stress enough the guys from Down the Guts. I know we joke about our little bromance we've got going with them.
Hey, love them.
And like, they are lovely guys, but like, they know their football as good as, if not better than most of the analysts who get paid to talk about football. And their latest episode, I listened to it at work today. Great analysis of us. They're both Joe and Adam have got us ranked number one now. But I did notice as well, Fox Footy were they gave us an A+ on their little game rankings, and they've got us, I think, ranked number one in their little premiership window now. And
85 points in front. Surely, like, one every quarter. Surely we have to be an A+. Like,
but
how can it be anything but?
So Port Adelaide have beaten the top side by 112. We've beaten fourth or fifth bottom side by 85. And we got the same grading as them from Fox Footy, though. Taking off my biased hat, wouldn't you think that Port Adelaide, I know it was at their home ground and we were away, but we were away at our home away from home, let's face it. I mean, don't get me wrong. We won by 85 points. We deserve an A+.
I would argue that, yes, Sydney is top of the ladder, but the Sydney that Port faced this week was a very different Sydney to who we faced a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and on that, we didn't face a very good team this week either. So I don't know. Look, I felt both teams were deserving of the highest grade. Don't get me wrong, but winning by 112 against a team that's sitting on top of the ladder, if you're just going to go on face value, you would think that would be a higher rank. I'm not complaining, not for a second, because hey, if we're getting ranked as the best performed team on the weekend, I'll take that every week. Because
yes, no, definitely.
Yeah, quite often when we've had good wins, then I've looked on their socials and it'd be like, oh, Brisbane B. I'm thinking, well, we beat a team in the top 8, and this team that beat the Eagles got given an A+, or beat Richmond got an A+. So it's that formula is a bit like the what do you call it, the reimbursement formula for free agency.
For free agency, that's such a joke. Did you see they're talking about fiddling with that?
Well, I mean, Hawthorn got pick 18 for Buddy, one of the greatest footballers of all time, and North Melbourne got pick 3 for Ben Mackay, who's not really that good. So
go bloody figure, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, we got pick 18 for Tom Rockcliffe. Is he equal as a footballer to Lance Franklin?
I don't think so. I do think he was one of our better footballers at the time, and I think he definitely played better for us than he did for Port. But
his body was cooked by the time he went to Port. But yeah, he was a great footballer, but he's not in Franklin's class. Yet there's the same conversation.
Ben Mackay's not in. I would say there's probably 3 or 4 players that are in Franklin's class, and that's it.
Mm.
Like, I get he's not a midfielder and he hasn't won a stack of Brownlows, but my God.
He could have played in the midfield, though.
He could have.
Wearing a maroon, blue and gold jumper would have been nice.
Anyway, I mean, woulda, coulda, didn't.
Imagine we got him instead of Tom Bell back in 2014 or 15, whatever it was.
Oh, nope. No, I can't imagine, because if I imagine, then that just makes me sad about the things that could have been. But, I mean, we were a bit of a basket case around then, so I'm probably glad he didn't come.
Mm. Well, we had your favourite coach, didn't we?
Yep. Nope, we're not talking about that because we just won by 85 points, so we are not talking about that. Do you have any...
I'm just a stirrer. Everybody knows that.
Do you have any comments about the media any other comments about the media, I should say?
So Al and his love affair with Jack Riewoldt, he was texting me during the game. Apparently Jack was hanging it on Ryan Lester.
Constantly.
I kicked 6 on him in my 300th game. Well, Jack, you got a short memory, mate, because you played on Jack Payne that day.
Like, constantly. Brownie tried to give him a couple of compliments, and Jack Rewalt would literally interrupt him halfway through to hang shit on him. And I'm like, mate, it's his 200th game. Sit down, shut up.
Yeah, look, I generally find Jack to be pretty good in the media this year since he's been doing it full time. So I haven't had any complaints about him until Al was telling me about that. But that's pretty much all for me and what I brought up about the
literally in my notes to bring up
and the Sydney Fitzroy stuff because
Yep.
I didn't watch the game on TV, so I haven't watched it back yet because I got home really late last night and had to go to work early. So life gets in the way. But yeah.
Yep. Any comments about umpires, weird stats, anything like that you want to bring up?
Yeah, I kept a track of one weirdo stat. Callum Wilkie sledging our players with little hand signals. In particular, Logan Morris, 14 times I counted, where he was.
I missed that completely.
It was when the ball was down the other end. He'd go up to Logan Morris, get in his face, do little hand signals, sign language, or something like that. Mate, Callum Wilkie, not only are you a flog, you're not even that good a footballer, mate. Like, go and get your hands on the ball. Number 47 from the Saints.
Yep.
Nine times I counted him doing the same thing up the other end. He also didn't get too many kicks either. So he did more sledges than what he got disposals.
Wow.
The umpires were a bit weird at times, but majority of the game I thought they were pretty good. But there was a couple of times where I've turned around to the bloke sitting next to me, or Karen was sitting on my other side at one point, and I've said, "Oh, I don't know if we should have got that free kick, but we'll take it." But then there's other times where I've kind of like, how the hell did the Saints get that?
Yeah, there were a couple that were really bizarre both ways and genuinely both ways. There was one where they almost tried to take, I think it was Kai Lohmann's head off at one point. Didn't he? Or might have been Jared Berry.
It was Jared Berry, I think.
And didn't even get like anything for it. It was just play on. And then all the Saints fans were booing because it wasn't holding the ball. I'm like, mate, that was like up here, like over his neck. What are you talking about? And I'm like, and then because there's been all this stuff in the media about Hawthorn forwards who drop and, they're back to paying high, like free kicks for around the neck and high head contact. And then we don't get it. I'm just sitting there going, it's literally like, have they been given a memo not to pay this stuff now? But that wasn't Jared Berry dropping into that. That was literally a guy coming and sideswiping him around the neck.
Yeah. Did you see it was down our cheer squad end? Harris punched one in a pack, and then when the ball was in midair, he's reached out and grabbed it, claimed the mark. But what he did, he turned around and stared down the umpire, daring him to not pay it as a mark. And we were also staring down the umpire, and we could see his face, and it was white as a ghost. And he's just like, "No, that's a mark. I'm not. This guy's intimidating me here."
I'm not arguing. You can have it, mate. Just leave me alone.
But yeah, there was one with Logan Morris as well. He was the man behind, but he got first hands on the ball. He got both hands on the ball, and then it bounced.
When he crumbed it to himself and kicked the goal?
No.
That was a beautiful bit of footage.
He got first hands on the ball, but the Saints player got second hands and held it, and they paid him the mark. But look, that happens every week though. So like, that's not something that's in. It's happened one time, and they're picking on us because they do it to everyone.
I don't mind if they do that as long as they're equal about that. Like, I don't care if they're not going to pay the mark to the first person as long as, again, it's equal.
Yeah, well,
equal opportunities, I'm not going to whinge about. It's when it's one way or the other and it's terrible. That's when I get.
I think we ended up with more free kicks anyway, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah.
But it was only, I think it was like 15-9. But that's a result of the fact that we had the ball more, significant amount more.
Yeah.
That's simply why.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Yeah. You can't really do much about that. I do want to have a bit of a chat about David Roden. Is that how you pronounce his last name? Really sorry if I've just pronounced that wrong.
It's Roden.
Who was obviously one of the goal umpires down the end where we kicked in the second and fourth quarter. Sorry, Jack, to say this, but I think he was making me actually start liking umpires. He just had the biggest grin on his face. He just looked like he was enjoying the game. I get that he's a past player, so obviously he just seems more involved and seems to be more in love, but it just came across that he just wanted to be there and watch a good game of footy, and it was really enjoyable to watch as a fan.
Are you old enough to remember him as a player at Richmond?
Only the end of his career.
Yeah, so he always played with a smile as well. He was like that as a player. He was just one of those, like, you know how every club has that one guy that you just can't hate no matter what?
Yep.
That was him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also the young lady who was goal umpiring up the other end, she copped a bit of abuse for no reason from some people in the crowd.
Oh, that's no good. Guys.
Absolutely just did not let it fluster her. A couple of people called those guys out.
Yep.
Told them to pull their heads in. And she cops it every time I go to Marvel. It's the same young girl. And I reckon she probably maybe 19 or 20. She looks pretty young, and there's always a couple of misogynistic dickheads who just want to throw little comments. And, you know, I'll give you the tip, guys. She wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole. I'm sure of that. But also, one of the boundary umpires down that end,
yep,
he had the second best mustache in the stadium. Second only to Joe, of course. But
Joe's mustache is a sight to see.
Wanted to walk up to this boundary umpire and twirl the ends of his mustache. It was magnificent.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love that. Like, that's, yeah. It's just a little bit of fun, and anytime you can get a little bit of fun, that's kind of what you want, and kind of what you've got to learn to appreciate. And I mean, if we can't get that, who can we get, or what can we do? So yeah, as I said, it was enjoyable to watch David.
Yeah, he's universally loved. There's nobody that doesn't love him.
No. And I mean, I probably miss a little bit of it because we don't always get the games where he umpires. Yeah. So when we do, that's really nice.
He travels a bit as well. So he's sort of like, some of the younger goal umpires can't travel because of study or whatever, part-time work and whatever, but he's able to do that. So everybody gets a bit of David Roden. And also, I'm not 100% on this because I've never watched the show, but apparently he won the Dancing with the Stars one year as well.
Oh, did he? How fantastic.
I know he was definitely on it because I remember one of my kids pointing it out to me, but I never watched it. So I don't know if he did win or not, but let's just say he did because it's him.
No, I love that. And a little bit of a lull too this week in the media. So Fox Footy's AI bots coming to strike again when talking about the Brisbane Lions, and obviously a summary. Brisbane is clearly the hottest team in the AFL right now, riding a 9-game losing streak.
That's nearly as good as when the Brisbane Lions beat the Brisbane Lions by 79 points a few weeks ago.
Yep. So I just thought that was a bit of a lull that deserved a little bit of a highlight here.
There was an article on the AFL app about a week or so ago about Scott Pendlebury. And in 2 paragraphs, someone sent me a screenshot. In 2 paragraphs, they'd actually circled about 6 just words that weren't actually words. They were just jumbled letters.
Yep.
I mean, that wasn't even the AI bot or the work experience kid. That was just someone feverishly typing it on their phone, trying to get it done quickly and not checking what they've done with their thumb.
Yep. Sometimes just take that extra minute to proofread, guys.
Be better, because we're watching you.
That was a bit of a lull, so I enjoyed that.
Oh, actually, so have you listened back to our last episode?
I've listened to about 3/4 of it.
So have you listened to my VFL review and preview? You know what I'm going to bring up.
Yeah.
Connor Buderick plays for the Suns, not for us, Brisbane Lions media team. Joel Buderick plays for us. Connor
will probably play for us soon.
I think there's a bit of planning around that, but don't jump the gun, boys or girls. He doesn't play for us yet.
That was honestly, that made me giggle so much. Like, and I mean, because we've got a fair few brothers too. Like,
Mm,
it does happen, but yeah, that was a bit funny.
yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Maybe we're going forward to the future.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I only want to go forward to the future if we have a premiership.
Mm.
Yep.
That's-
Actually, no, I don't, because I don't want to miss the premiership. I'm like, oh, catch 22.
mm.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So,
But do you want to sit through a full game where we might seesaw and have this epic 28 score change battle, and
oh,
or do you
my
just want
heart
to
doesn't.
have the final siren and we win?
I don't know. Like, because it's so stress inducing, and I can't imagine how it would be for the players because I can't imagine it would be enjoyable.
Oh no.
But oh, I just,
That's why you see, at the end of big epic games like grand finals and prelims and whatever, you see players, coaches, fans in tears because everybody rides the roller coaster for that 2.5 hours. And it's a massive emotional roller coaster.
yep, can confirm I was in tears after last year's grand final. So don't want
Mm.
another repeat of that, thanks. Unless they're
Well,
tears of happiness.
I,
I'll do
I,
tears
was,
of happiness.
I was too busy trying to control my temper at a Collingwood fan who was telling little girls to go and kill themselves after the game. So,
That's
um,
not
mm,
okay.
yeah,
Not okay.
stay classy,
But
guys.
yep. Yep. So, on that lovely note, do we have anything else you want to bring up about the game or about this week?
Nah, look, the only other, like, I kind of brought up most of my mental notes, and the
Yep.
only other things I wanted to bring up are in my ticks. So,
Yep. Okay. Well,
and
then
you've
why
already
don't we?
stolen my thunder a little bit with that anyway.
I'm sorry. I would say if I was actually sorry, but I'm not because,
Well, we never cross check what we're going to talk about with
we
each other
don't.
because
Wouldn't be half as fun.
when I used to give Al my complete notes, we wouldn't talk about half the stuff because we'd be waiting for the other person to bring it up.
I love it. Well, on that note, do you want to get into your tips?
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we've spoken about this fella a fair bit, Cam Rayner. Um,
Yay!
he's my first tick. So, for the first time in Cam Rayner's AFL career, he has gone 3 weeks in a row now with 20 plus disposals and multiple goals in the same game. And statistically, his last 5 weeks have been his best 5 weeks of football he's ever played at this level.
You know, I'm so excited to see him going so well. Like, I just,
The the only thing better in AFL football to me at the moment than seeing Cam Rayner break a tackle, which he
mm,
does relentlessly,
yep.
is Bruce Reville on the left.
Bruce.
You see Bruce swing onto the left or Rayner
Oh,
break a tackle, and you can just feel it in your chest.
so there was a stat being mentioned on Fox on the commentary. So I think it was half time. Rainer had broken 4 tackles. The highest next on the ground by anyone was 1. And he
Mm,
was on track to beat, I think it was Dustin Martin's record of 8 in a game.
mm.
He didn't end up, he ended up getting tackled.
Well,
But yeah, that was just watching him was a delight.
well, if you look at that, so what did you say at one stage he was on 4?
Hmm.
So we're now 20-ish games into the season. Let's say,
Yep.
what, 19 or 20 games per team into the season?
Yep.
Let's just say 20. So the leading 2 guys in the broken tackles for the year, Chad Warner and Harley Reid, are in the low 50s.
Yep.
So you think 20 divided by 50 or 50 divided by 20 or whatever, that's probably an average of about 2.5 a game, right?
Little over 2, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, give or take.
Yeah. We'll
So
go 2.5.
yeah. So 4 is obviously well above average, and that wasn't even in a complete game.
No,
So
that was to halftime.
yeah. So next up, I got Jasper Fletcher. I nearly called him Adrian for some reason.
Yeah, I wonder.
So
And also, sorry, just before you go on to Jasper, Everyone who keeps crapping on that the only reason the Lions got Jasper was because of father-son. Well, yes, Adrian played for the Lions, but he was also part of our academy, so we would have had dibs on him that way anyway. So
Well,
carry on.
Adrian played for about 5 clubs, so I mean,
Hmm.
it's not like Anyway,
There was a little bit of a dig about the fact that Jasper chose Brisbane when he could have chosen multiple other clubs. So
why would
that's
you want to go
why
anywhere else? So,
that's why I mentioned that. Carry on.
um,
Sorry.
so it all started when I had a newly turned 14-year-old daughter with me, and I mentioned to her for her birthday, you've got this much money to spend. It's up to you what you want to buy. On the way to the footy, she said, I want a Jasper Fletcher badge. And I think we've all established now that her TikTok name is Jasper Fletcher. So
Yep.
give her a follow. So she's a bit of a fan.
Oh, I love what she's producing. It's so much fun.
Yeah,
I don't do anything on TikTok myself, but I may just like lurk in the background because she does wonderful
Yeah,
content.
she does a great job. And so she kept the record of what he was doing on the ground. And I think she said to me, and I don't know if this was his final stat, but it must have been pretty close because it was late in the game. He's had 17, I think 5 tackles and kicked a goal. That's a pretty good day for a wingman.
Kicked the last goal of the game, 19.
Yeah, 19.
7 marks, 4 tackles, 2 clearances, 3 goal assists.
Yeah, your wingmen
Comprehensive.
aren't your 25, 30 disposal getters. Anything up around give or take 20, two or three either side is a pretty good day for a wingman. They cover a lot of ground. He gets back, helps out then around half back. He does a lot of stuff off the ball that you don't notice, but statistically, he's up there with any other wingman on that performance. So we've already touched on Harris Andrews a lot. We could be here all night.
I could write a book and a love affair to Harris Andrews and how amazing he is, but
maybe I already have. Love the Chief, and very, very popular man with the crowd as well. Also, I have Zach Bailey.
Bales! So, back to my question. Is Bales back?
He's back. And I said this to Al about 2 weeks ago, and I said it again to someone sitting around me last night. The only thing better than seeing Cam Rayner break a tackle or Bruce Reville swing onto his left is Zach Bailey streaming into 50 with the ball in his hand out in the open. You know 99 times out of 100 that ball's safe.
Just a delight to watch.
He's either going to thread it through the middle or hit up someone on the chest.
Like, I get coming back from an ankle injury is huge, and he's really battled coming back in form. But God, it was like watching him in the grand final all over again last night, and that was.
He did get caught in a fend off yesterday, but he managed to still mysteriously get a handball off with one hand. We got away with one there.
At least it wasn't the only one. That was pretty bad both sides. Like I was like, that's some really interesting extra hands that we have and they have.
but no, look, I think Bailey's back. And look, you're not going to get 22 or 23, whatever rounds in a row of Zach Bailey at his best because guys like that don't play that way.
Yep.
But they do it when it counts. They do it in big games.
And I'd rather him coming into form now than 6 weeks ago.
That's right. And we all saw what he can do in the biggest game of the season last year. So my last one, and this guy gets a lot of love on this show because, well, how can you not? Calamachi.
That goal he kicked to open our account.
He was everywhere. He was involved. He was assertive. He was positive. He had Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller on him for a while, who is a really good footballer.
Yep.
If you recall last time we played the Saints, he got dropped, and I was pretty disappointed that I wouldn't get to see him play. But Cal was all over him, defeated him
Yep.
comprehensively, around about 90 ranking points, which is a lot for essentially a forward pocket. You're looking at normally 45 to 50 on a good day, and he's
Yep.
got I think 89 or 90. Yeah, just since his second child has been born, he's been on fire again. Like for
Yep.
for a couple of weeks mid-season, probably for about a month or so, he went a bit quiet after that drawn game against the Crows.
Yep.
But then the next time we played the Crows, he started to fire up, and he's been great ever since.
What I really loved about him was he got 2 goals of his own, 2 goals won, directly goal assisted for I think 3 or 4 others. And his pressure in the forward 50. So he took a couple of tackles in the forward 50 that just like it. I just really love him when he's playing well. Like he stands up. And again, I've said this all. I genuinely think everyone on our team as a whole stood up this week. Like it was just like we had that extra oomph going for us, obviously in light of the fact that it was Froggy's 200th. And normally there's 1 or 2 of them that you can kind of go, oh, you could have done a little bit more. I don't think I would have said that about anyone. And even like, say, Jackson Pryor, who only got 7 disposals. Well, that wasn't because he wasn't playing well. It was
No, it's because he
the
did
ball
a
was
job.
down the other end and he did a job.
Yeah.
And
he did a job on a reasonably good opponent.
Yep.
Like, you know, he's done himself no harm with that performance.
None of them have.
So, and I just lost my train of thought because I was gonna cut you off, and then I didn't because
you could have cut me off. That would have been fine.
It'll come back to me later.
That's okay. Cut me off when it comes back to you. You'll be like, ha.
All right.
Okay, was that all of your tips?
Yeah, that's 5. Yeah.
Okay, so
I just remembered.
Yep.
So someone sitting nearby to me mentioned at one point, it's like we got 46 men out there. And I said, what do you mean? And I said, do you mean that the Saints are short of players? Or and they go, nah, everyone's playing like 2 men.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. As I said, it seemed like we just hunted as a pack.
And actually, I want to bring up something before you do your crosses.
Of course. Go ahead.
This is a cross from me.
Ooh.
If you're a Lions supporter and we're 85 points up, why the hell are you bagging players at that point in the game?
What?
Like, if we're 85 points down, then there's going to be stuff to criticize, but not when we're 85 points up. Yep.
I will defend our Cubs like a mama does. Oh my God, leave our boys alone. Like they're developing and anyway, they have all stood up. There is a reason why we have several Rising Star nominees this year because our Cubs are standing up. So lay off.
Angry Deb's back.
Oh, that's one. I will defend our boys.
I was going to bring that up.
Do not deserve criticism.
I was going to bring that up at the start, but I thought, I'll just wait. I want to get Happy Deb first.
That's a deserving cross. Given so I'm on crosses this week, and this was tough, guys. Imagine having to do crosses in a game where we've won by 85 points. We've won every quarter. We've won comprehensively. There's not really anything that you can pick apart. So I tried. I think I got 1 for our boys, and that was a stretch. So my only genuine criticism was Kai's late hit for a 50 early in the first quarter, I want to say it was. It was a little bit ill-disciplined, but it was so deep in our forward 50 that it didn't really matter. It wasn't damaging in the scheme of things. I bring this up because those sorts of ill-disciplined 50s cost us in the grand final last year. So let's just tighten that up, boys. But if that's the only genuine criticism I can find of our team for a game, that's scraping the bottom of the barrel, and it really was. So it's not a criticism, Kai. I love you to pieces. But just, let's just tighten up those little tiny things so there's nothing that they can get us for. There we go. Cross number 1. Cross number 2, And again, this wasn't really a criticism of our playing style. It was more, again, trying to find something. So St Kilda took 75 uncontested marks in the first half, which we haven't conceded that many uncontested marks in a half since 2008
So
as a side.
I'll combat that. Did it hurt us?
Yes. Well, next note, didn't have a scoreboard impact as our defenders were on fire, but here is a cross. Literally my words, word for word.
Yeah, it's all right. How often does this happen to me? It's good to get one back. So you can put down as one of your crosses, me getting revenge.
I had to find something, and that was something. But again, and as I said, it had zero impact. So they scored 1 goal, 4 for the first half. So the fact that, they took so many uncontested marks, it doesn't really mean much. That seems to be something that we're generally pretty on top of, is the uncontested mark game, and that's a real strength of ours.
The other thing with that too, sorry, go on.
No, you go.
That's what I alludes back to what I said earlier in the episode, where they were winning games in the last couple of weeks by not playing that style, and then they've gone back to that style against us. And where has it gotten them? That's not to say that the way they played was the reason they lost, because
we were
clearly the better team. There was a faultless display by our club.
Yep. Yes. So again, it was something, but in the grand scheme of things, if they're going to take that many and it's not going to get them much past their sort of, the centre line of the ground, I'm not really concerned. Plus, Harris Andrews took 14 marks, and I think most of those were uncontested himself. So he took the marks where it actually mattered, whereas theirs weren't. So no scoreboard impact. Speaking of scoreboard impact, so my next cross was St Kilda's scoring woes. So they only kicked 5 goals all game. They kicked 1 goal, 4 in the first half, and they got probably 1 cheap goal late in the fourth quarter, but that's it. But still, 5 goals. It's their lowest amount of goals for the whole of 2024. So there's been a lot made of St Kilda defence over attacking football, and they don't really care as long as they're defending well. Well, 5 goals isn't enough to be an attacking football.
5 goals under the roof with no rain and no wind to speak of
is insane.
It's not good enough.
Yeah, it's the lowest amount of goals kicked against the Lions in our Brisbane Lions era as well. So
there you go.
This says a huge amount about our defence, not just about their offence.
That's obviously not including the 2020 year when the games were shortened. Because there are a couple of games when clubs kicked 3 or 4 goals, but shortened games.
But that wasn't with us, I don't think. So.
Yeah, there was. There was a couple against us because they've come up in my recent Facebook memories, so that's why it's fresh in my mind.
Okay,
but
cool.
Yeah, asterisks on that whole season. We've said that all year, haven't we?
Always. I mean, kicking straight for them probably would have netted some more. So they kicked 5 goals, 9. I must admit, Stacey, a lovely, wonderful friend of the podcast, and I were bantering back and forth throughout the game because both of us were doing the miss it underneath our breath. And I think 6 of the points that they kicked, I was doing that, and only 1 ended up being a goal whilst I was doing that. And it's absolutely nothing to do with anything, but I thought that was hilarious. So Stace and I were having wonderful banter about that. And again, kicking straight's been something that we've really struggled with, and we kicked 19-10. So it's really nice having that flipped on us.
That's where a big difference in our results has come from as well.
Thanks, Stewie Jew. Gold Coast, because all of this comes about since Stewie Jew started working with the Lions.
So another thing that someone said to me, someone who has access to the inner sanctum, I can't mention their name, but they've just said Trent Cotchin and Stewie, but Trent Cotchin has been there a bit longer. But the work he's done with the boys in the leadership group is without peer. They now realise why he was so highly rated prior to coming to our club.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people were critical of it because, from Richmond, rah, rah, rah. But yeah, you can see the massive
Captain
difference.
them to 3 premierships
That's
means
right.
something.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, our leaders have stood up,
Mm.
particularly since the bye. Like it's noticeable and it's wonderful. If
Yeah.
that's down to Koch, well, thanks,
Well,
Richmond.
I wonder if Stewie went into the rooms and yelled out, "Show a bit of bloody fight," and he didn't say bloody.
Probably. Another cross, and this is something that's a personal bugbear. I really don't like playing the Sunday twilight games for a
Mm-hmm.
couple of reasons. I hate being the very, very last game of the round. I never have liked it. But also, if it hadn't been a Sunday twilight game, I probably would have gone down to Melbourne to watch it. When you're an interstate team, the Sunday twilight game makes it really hard for any of your followers from around the country to come and support your team because most of the planes don't fly out of Melbourne late enough for you to finish watching the game and then get to the airport with enough time to check in and get on a flight out.
Mm.
So maybe we can be a bit better about fixturing
I don't
the
think
interstate
anybody
teams,
likes the
AFL.
Sunday twilight games. I think it's just shocking. I don't like late Sunday games, full stop. But when they're that late, 110's all right on a Sunday, but
Yeah.
um,
Except at the Gabba, because 110 is just when you get the worst of the sun. It's horrific, just based on where certain buildings are. And it was really noticeable in the Sydney game, and it'll be really noticeable in the Giants game if it's a sunny day on Saturday. The 1 o'clock starts in Brisbane. This is where the Gabba is. Terrible time, the sun. But Sunday twilight games, my worst bugbear.
yeah,
So
everyone hates them. I don't think
I'd
anyone
much rather
likes
play a Thursday night. AFL, get better at your fixturing. Come on, you've got you can't tell me there's a reason for having 2 Friday night games and not one on a Thursday, and then you've still got a game at 4:40 on a Sunday. Like, come on.
The only thing is Thursday night games I can't get to. So,
Well, we probably wouldn't have been at that because of when all our games were fixtured for when the second half of the fixture dropped, which mini cross, not actually my cross, but the fact that round 24 is still not out. I know it's getting announced on Wednesday, but the fact that it is still not out is ridiculous.
and that gives people 16 days to organise trips.
16 days. That is not enough time. I know the AFL's like, oh no, we're all about the fans. We want the fans to be at games. Well, you want to pay for my flights to, well, not that there's flights because the Lions are playing at home, but do you want to pay for a fan's flights to travel interstate with 16 days notice? Do you know how expensive that is? Come on, be better. Like, it's ridiculous. This should have been out 2 or 3 weeks ago at an absolute minimum. Absolute minimum. Because I've got plans that I need to make for that weekend. I can't make plans because when's the game going to be? It could be Friday night, it could be Sunday afternoon, it could be Saturday afternoon. How are families meant to make plans around that? Just be better, AFL. This is shocking. I understand that floating fixtures works well for TV ratings, blah, 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 but it really doesn't, does it? Because you had the guys that are at the moment 1 and 2 on the ladder playing at 110 on a Sunday 2 weeks ago. You had the Giants Hawthorn, which was probably one of the games of the round, playing at 110 on a Sunday. Come on, be better.
And Eagles
Stop with floating fixture.
and Gold Coast on a Friday night.
Yep.
Which turned out to be a pretty good game from all reports.
Yeah, I was like, I watched some of it, not all of it, but again, it was clashing, so I was flicking between 2 games.
You were busy with us.
I was also well. I had it on the other screen.
We know.
So I was flicking between the 2.
We know.
I get very distracted by football. I just love it. So, kind of leads me into my very last cross, and this is a big whack for Fox, cutting straight to bounce at the end of the game and missing Froggy's chair off. And yes, they played the song, and it was really cool that they had the little frog, but the fact that they didn't do a chair off, like if that had been Pendle's 400th, they would have stayed. Or if it had been Adam Trelaw's 250th, or like...
No, they wouldn't have done it for Trelaw.
come on, like be better.
Yeah,
Bounce is not the be all and end all. It's
not
not
even a good
funny.
show. It's not even a good show.
Well, we put something where we have everyone having a laugh at people almost killing themselves, like in accidents. Like, I don't want to watch that. I want to watch things that are actually football related, like one of my absolute favorite clubmen who has been a stalwart of our club, getting cheered off and deservedly so for his 200th.
And just speaking of which, too, so thanks to everyone who sent in a voice message for Froggy. Now, I did ask someone to pass on a link to the YouTube video we made for him. Whether or not he gets to watch it or not is, I don't know.
I hope so. It was a good video.
Yeah, it's good. So everyone spoke really highly of him, so that's really good.
Yep. But yeah, so can we just get a little bit better? And it's not even just this. There was a game we played a couple of weeks ago, and it cut straight from our game to another game, to another game, to another game. And they played all the club songs of all the other teams that won except ours. And how do I know that? Because I literally went back and watched every hour of Fox that was on post our game just to see if they played our song, and even if they played our song later in the night, and they never did.
So I'm on KO, I'm not on Fox, so I don't know how different it is. I know it's the same thing, but sort of not really. But I've noticed as well where another game will finish and you'll see players shaking hands, and they'll cross straight to the
warm up
pre-game of our game.
Yeah.
Without seeing that previous game as well have their, because every game has
post-match interviews.
Yeah, every game seems to have a medal these days as well. You know what I mean? And the we played against each other trophy that they seem to all get for every game.
Yeah. No. So and it's not just our team. I notice it when it's our team, obviously, because I want to watch it. But I've also noticed them do it for other teams, and it's be better. Like, come on. Just either it needs to work out with better fixturing from AFL to start with. But you're the broadcaster. You can choose whether you play bounce or not. Either play it a little bit, like purposely schedule it 15 minutes later. Number one, you should schedule it later anyway, because the games always go over and then it's just a pain in the ass for the rest of the scheduling for the night. But maybe start it half an hour later so you can get those post-game interviews. You can get the song played. You can get someone's getting cheered off, that included. Like, it's not hard. It's not going to super inconvenience you, and it's going to improve significantly the watchability for the fans of the teams playing.
And hear me out. Just make shows that are actually worth watching.
Yep. And if you have a defensive Player of the Year in the Golden Fist Award, actually award it to defenders and not just midfielders or forwards who happen to spoil sometime. Spud would be rolling over that.
Well, the only true Backman of the Year award is the one being run by the Backchat podcast over in the West. And last time I heard, they stopped telling us who was in the leaderboard because they're going to have like the last 6 rounds or whatever where it's going to be, a bit of suspense. But before they stopped doing that, Harris was about 4 votes in front. So
the Mongrel Punt does one as well, which is it's not Facebook run. It's got its own website.
We're not fans of the Mongrel Punt here.
I am. I like it. You don't have to be. That's fine. Harris won last year for theirs.
Good for them.
No, I just like some of the stats that they come up with and the fact that it's legitimately based on stats for defenders. So they do that. So anyway, they're my crosses. That was really tough. So
wasn't that tough? You got fired up.
Well, it's hard finding crosses for a game, but then I get fired up when people do stupid stuff that has nothing to do with my football team, but impacts my football team. So, so I guess we'll get into the big one, Player of the Week. You get to go first.
No, you can go first.
No, I'm hosting. I get to decide. You go first.
Al said last week, it's Beauty Before the Beast. And
post duties, I get the call. You get to go first.
Nah, it's the rules of the show and I'm definitely not the beauty here.
No,
I'm,
Host. Put my foot down. You go first.
as Al
I was
said,
first last week anyway. So
as Al said, I'm the brains behind the operation, not the beauty. No, I always like to go last
fine.
because I've usually got 4 players to choose from, and I want to be different to everyone else.
Well, I had 2, and I've been bouncing back and forth between 2 all day. I really, really want to pick Cam Rayner because I loved what he did, but I can't go past Lockie Neal's clearance work. He was a beast in all the best possible ways. And yes, I know our midfield ran rampant, but God, he was just class. And in the very last quarter, that handball back behind him to Dunkley that then went to Bruce for his very first touch that ended in a goal wasn't even looking like that's just the class of him and just epitomized his game as a whole and hands down won it for me.
Did you notice something about, so what did Bruce get, about 6 disposals in his limited time? And every single one of them was at 100% efficiency.
Yes. Yep. 6 disposals, 100% efficiency, 100 meters gained for those 6 disposals, including a goal.
Okay.
Yep. No.
I mean, we didn't use the sub very well again. We never really have. Very occasionally we do. But he was effective.
He was effective.
Very effective when he came on.
A good like-for-like swap of Charlie.
So you've gone with Lockie Neal then. Well, I must admit, look, I didn't have him in my top 4 players. I know he got a lot of the ball, won a lot of clearances. Midfielders do that. But for me, the most important stat is the one on the scoreboard. And Joe Danaher got 4 of them.
Yep.
And he probably should have had 7, but it's Joe. We take the 3 or 4 misses because we got the 4 goals and all the other things he does. So I've gone with Big Joe this week.
I wouldn't disagree with that. As I said, I've been humming and hawing. And to be fair, if it wasn't Lockie, I would have given it to Cam because 3 goals and what he did was phenomenal.
I could have
but
gone
Joe's a well-deserved winner too.
Yeah, I could have gone with Rayner, and I've thought about Stas or Harris as well. I thought, as I've said already, both of those were magnificent players as well. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, what you put on
outscore a team.
Yeah, what you put on the scoreboard is what wins the game. So, when guys kick 4 or more, I'm generally going to pick them as the player.
Yep, and not opposed to that. I think it's well deserved. Yeah. That pretty much brings us to an end. Any thoughts that you want to end with or include?
So I will have a report on the VFL coming out probably in our next episode, which we'll be recording Thursday evening. And I'll have an update on Jimmy Tunstall. I think just out of respect, we won't say too much at the moment. I have been given a little bit of information, but I just want to hang on to that till I know a little bit more. But Jimmy was at Marvel on Sunday night. He didn't look great, but the fact that he was out of hospital and was walking around as much as it was difficult for him was a good sign. But yeah, I'll have some more information on Jimmy. In fact, look, everyone will probably hear more from the club between now and then anyway. And that's probably the best place to hear it from rather than hear it from me because I'm just going to be giving third-hand information anyway. But yeah, out of respect to Jimmy, we'll just leave it at that for now.
Yep.
And
fair enough.
Yeah, let the club do all the talking on that. Other than that, I've 95% confirmed a special guest for Thursday night. I just have to, I don't know, there's just that little 5% of getting the deal over the line. So we'll see how we go.
Gotta make sure all those waivers are signed. So on that note, that's us pretty much wrapped up. You can't go wrong with an 85-point win and second place outright, which is a nice change in the first time that's happened for us all season, given that we were 13th not too long ago. it's been a really good week to be a Lions fan. It's been a really good couple of months to be a Lions fan. But obviously, keep going. Let's get them over the line. We've got a couple of really tough weeks coming up against the Giants, the Pies, and Essendon. So cheer big, cheer loud, get to the game, get behind the boys in the VFL as well, because we're also top 4 there. And potentially pushing for top 2 in a couple of home finals. So get around the boys wherever you can. And as always, go Lions.
Go Lions.
This episode was produced by Steel Hat Productions. Please follow us and enable notifications to get our latest episodes anywhere podcasts are available. And don't forget to give us a 5-star review.
Hey Freya, guess what?
What, Ash?
We've got a Patreon now.
What's a Patreon?
I'm glad you asked. Patreon is a website we have started using to promote our extra content, such as those really long tangents that our listeners love, but are not quite on topic for a particular episode. So we need somewhere else to put them so people can still listen. We might also have some fun competitions, giveaways, and other fun interactions for our listeners to join in with.
Sounds great. How do the listeners get on board?
Go into patreon.com and click on the join link. All you need to do for a fan account is add your name and email address and then search for We Are the Pride Brisbane Lions podcast and give us a follow. We aren't asking for your money. It's free.
Sounds great, champ. I'm heading to patreon.com right now.
Damn, Freya. I can't believe you champed me.